The room went dead silent. 282 soldiers froze, their eyes locked on a colonel about to swing at a woman half his size. Welcome to my channel, Midsummer Myths, where you find stories like no other, packed with twists, drama, and unbelievable moments you won't forget. And today's story, it's about a moment in military history so tense, so shocking, that people still whisper about it years later. It happened on an unremarkable Thursday morning, in the middle of a training cycle. The base was hot, the sun relentless, and tempers had been boiling for weeks. Captain Riley Harper was leading a platoon-wide drill in the mess hall, not her usual duty post, but she'd been covering for a sick senior officer. Riley was sharp, respected, and more than capable, but she was also a woman in a male-dominated unit, and that alone made her a lightning rod for certain old-school officers. Enter Colonel Jameson, a man known for two things, his medal count and his temper. He had the kind of command presence that could crush a recruit without saying a word, but his reputation had been shifting in recent years. Whispers about his short fuse, his explosive outbursts, and his inability to adapt to the new era of respect in the military were starting to catch up to him. That morning, Riley was giving orders when Jameson barged into the mess hall, red-faced, barking about a delay in the schedule. She stood at attention, calm but firm, explaining that her team had already adjusted for the change. But Jameson wasn't looking for an explanation. He was looking for someone to blame. His voice cut through the hall, like shrapnel. "Are you challenging me, Captain?" "No, sir," she replied, steady. "Just clarifying the plan." That's when it happened. In full view of the assembled soldiers, minus 282 men and women, standing in uniform, the colonel stepped forward, his hand rising in an unmistakable motion. Time seemed to slow. Riley's eyes locked on his, her training kicking in before thought could catch up. In one swift, controlled motion, she caught his wrist mid-air, twisted, and with a precise application of force learned in combatives training. The room was filled with a sharp, unmistakable crack. The colonel's face contorted in pain. His knees buckled. The entire hall seemed to stop breathing. And Riley didn't flinch. She simply released his arm and stepped back, standing at attention, eyes forward. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. You could have heard a coin hit the floor and then chaos. Asterisk 1 second. The colonel was the terror of the base. The next, he was on his knees, clutching an arm that hung limp at his side. It was like a dam had burst. Soldiers shifted uneasily, some glancing toward the door, others frozen as if afraid to even blink. A few sergeants rushed forward, but not toward Riley. They went to steady the colonel, their faces pale. Riley knew exactly what would come next. Paperwork, inquiries, and the kind of political storm that could end a career before lunchtime. But she also knew something else. She hadn't been the aggressor. Every camera in the mess hall would show the same thing. A commanding officer raising a hand against a subordinate and getting stopped cold. The colonel's voice was hoarse, guttural. You're finished, Captain." She didn't reply. Her father, a retired Marine, had drilled one rule into her. Never justify yourself in the heat of battle. Your actions will speak louder than your words. Military police were called in within minutes. The mess hall cleared out fast, whispers trailing through the corridors like wildfire. By the time Riley was escorted to the base commander's office, the entire installation already knew what had happened. The base commander, a seasoned general with 30 years under his belt, looked like a man forced to choose between loyalty to his peers and the law of the uniform. He listened as Riley explained the sequence of events, her tone calm, factual, unshaken. When she finished, he simply said, "You know this won't be swept under the rug." What Riley didn't know yet was that the colonel's reputation had been under quiet review for months. Complaints from junior officers, unexplained incidents during inspections, and now, a very public act of aggression against a fellow officer. And yet, while most people would have started panicking about their career, Riley was thinking about something else entirely: the upcoming inspection where she was set to lead a joint training exercise, because she had a plan, one that would ensure the colonel's downfall would be witnessed by far more than just 282 soldiers. The colonel thought breaking her career would be easy. He had no idea she was about to fight back in front of the entire command. By the next morning, Riley was summoned for an official deposition. Military legal officers sat across from her, pens poised, eyes sharp. The room was cold, not from the air conditioning, but from the tension. The colonel had already filed his statement. In it, he claimed she'd attacked without provocation, that his raised hand had been to emphasize a point, not strike. Anyone who'd been there knew that was a lie. But the military was a place where rank carried weight, sometimes heavier than the truth. Riley recounted the events with the same calm precision she'd shown in the mess hall. She listed the witnesses, the security cameras, and even the medical officer's report confirming the fracture. She knew her words alone wouldn't save her. She needed irrefutable evidence. That's when she made her move. The joint training exercise was scheduled for 3 days later, a massive event involving multiple units, visiting officers, and civilian defense contractors. Riley was still slated to lead a key demonstration, and she requested, in writing, that the colonel be present as oversight. The request was approved, perhaps as a way for the upper brass to watch the two interact under scrutiny. But Riley had another reason during the exercise. She arranged for her demonstration to focus on defense against aggression in close quarters, and she made sure the drill included not just junior soldiers, but senior officers as role players. The morning of the event, the training grounds were packed. Spectators filled the bleachers, cameras ready for the public relations footage. The colonel sat near the front, his arms still in a sling. Expression smug, he clearly thought she'd be too intimidated to do anything noteworthy. Riley began with the basics: stance, awareness, reaction, timing. She used a few soldiers for examples. Then, without warning, she called for a volunteer from the senior command. Her eyes landed on the colonel. The crowd murmured. Cameras zoomed in. Slowly, deliberately, he stood and stepped forward, maybe thinking he'd intimidate her into backing down. She demonstrated a textbook wrist grab defense, explaining every motion. The audience was riveted, and then she paused, locking eyes with him before saying loud enough for the mics to pick up, "This is the same maneuver I used in the mess hall 3 days ago when an officer attempted to strike me." The bleachers erupted. Gasps, whispers, the rapid click of cameras. The colonel's face turned crimson, but he couldn't move. He was standing in front of hundreds of people, trapped by the very discipline of the uniform. By the time the exercise ended, the colonel's career wasn't just wounded, it was over. Within hours of the demonstration, the footage went viral inside military channels. The colonel's attempt to claim misunderstanding unraveled in seconds under the weight of eyewitness testimony and recorded video. Senior command called an emergency review. Riley wasn't even asked to testify. This time, the evidence was overwhelming. The colonel's history of complaints resurfaced, each one now magnified by this public humiliation. The official report landed 3 days later. Colonel Jameson was to be relieved of command pending a formal court-martial. The charges ranged from conduct unbecoming to abuse of authority. For Riley, it was vindication, but not victory. She'd seen enough to know the military's old guard didn't go quietly. Some whispered that she'd made an enemy of powerful people. Others, especially younger officers and enlisted women, quietly thanked her for showing that rank didn't make someone untouchable. The day before the colonel was due to leave the base, he showed up at her office. His arm was still bound, his uniform immaculate, but his eyes were burning. "You think you've won, Captain," he said, voice low. Riley stood, her posture perfect. "No, sir, I think the truth won." He didn't reply, just turned and walked out. That was the last time she saw him in uniform. In the weeks that followed, Riley's reputation soared. She was invited to speak at officer training programs, her incident now used as a case study in leadership ethics. But the best moment came quietly one evening when a young private stopped her in the hallway. "Ma'am, I was in the mess hall that day. I just wanted to say, you made me feel safe wearing this uniform." Riley nodded, feeling the weight of what she'd done settle on her shoulders. This hadn't just been about her career. It had been about every soldier who'd ever been told to just take it because the person dishing it out wore more stripes. The colonel lost his rank, but Riley gained something far more powerful than a promotion. Months later, Riley was promoted to major. It wasn't just a recognition of her service, it was a statement. The brass wanted the entire force to see that defending yourself, even against a superior, was not only acceptable but expected when the situation called for it. The colonel's court-martial ended with him stripped of his rank and pension. The footage from the training exercise had been decisive. There was no spinning the truth when the whole world had seen it. But for Riley, the real reward came in the form of letters, dozens of them, from soldiers stationed across the globe. Some were men, some women, all sharing stories of moments they'd stayed silent in the face of abuse. Her stand had given them courage. One letter, from a retired sergeant, first class, summed it up. "Sometimes, Major, the hardest battles aren't fought overseas, they're fought in our own barracks." Riley kept that letter pinned to her desk. Years later, when she retired from the service, she was invited back to speak at a graduation ceremony for new officers. Standing at the podium, looking out at rows of fresh uniforms, she told them, "Respect is earned, not demanded. And the day you forget that, no matter your rank, is the day you've lost the right to lead." The room erupted in applause. Somewhere in the crowd, a young soldier grinned, a soldier who'd been in the mess hall that day and never forgot what she did. Her story became legend, not because she broke a colonel's arm, but because she broke the unspoken rule that said power was above accountability. How did you like this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories from Midsummer Myths.